Hello, I'm Martin Murphy from the ILO Department of Communications. We're live at the Palais des Nations in Geneva at the 105th International Labour Conference. Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, the future of work, trends, threats and opportunity. And joining me are two very special guests, Lawrence Jeff Johnson, the Deputy Director of the ILO Department of Research Department, and Nicolas Niemtchinow, Special Advisor on the Future of Work Initiative. We're live, as I said, on Facebook, and we're going to be taking your questions, so please do send them, or you can post them on the comment box on Facebook, and we'll be sure to answer them. Jeff, let's dive straight into it. When we talk about the future of work, what are we really talking about? And if you can mention some of the major trends that we're seeing.
Sure. Well, what we're looking at in the future of work, since the beginning of time, man has been innovating, man and women. And what we're seeing now is that speed of that innovation outpacing our ability to adapt to change. What we're looking at in the future of work is how will man interact with technology? How will technology help us solve several of the world's problems? So what we're looking at is, what will this mean? Will it mean all of us have leisure time? Will it mean all of us have no income? What does the future look like? So what we're looking at is, we see within the world right now, there's 7 billion people. About half of those, 3.5 billion, are economically active. But what the ILO has often been concerned about is more than 1.5 billion are what we call vulnerably employed, own account workers, unpaid family workers, not able often to earn enough to support themselves and their families. So as we talk about moving forward with the future of work, we think often in terms of developed context about technology, auto manufacturing, robotics. But what's it going to mean for those people that cannot earn enough? Subsistence level farming. Again, the future of work will hit them as well. The use of that technology can be a way to resolve some of those problems. So what we want to do is look at it now so that we're ready in the future to make sure everyone can benefit from the changing world of work.
Great. Nicholas, as Jeff was mentioning, the ILO is approaching this issue not only from the research point of view, from the research side, but also from the institutional side. Can you tell us a little bit about what the ILO is doing in terms of the Future of Work initiative?
Yes, as Jeff said, our generation is witnessing a massive and transformative change in the world of work. And as you know, work is our work in ILO. This is our mandate. Work, decent work, employment, global social justice are precisely our mandate in the UN system and broadly in the international governance. So we think that we need to launch a global discussion across the globe about the future of work. How do we see our future of work? How we can shape the future of work we want, not just being passive bystanders of the technological changes or just witnessing the changes, but to be actors, agents of these changes in the world of work. So that's why ILO, for its centenary, we will use this opportunity of the centenary. We are launching this big initiative, very ambitious initiative, about the future of work. What is that? It's a sort of global discussion we'll have until our centenary in 2019 about the future of work.
Great. Now going back to your side of the table, Jeff, to the research side, what are the sectors that are most affected? And if we talk about threats, are there sectors that are more under threat than others?
Well, again, technology and this innovation are affecting all sectors. But what we're seeing openly is a lot of innovations that lead to where we do our work. We're seeing cloud sourcing. We're seeing where people are able to work around the world. We see, for example, a medical transcriptionist can get files from the U.S. and go to the Philippines and do that work. The same way with MRI techs. So this creates a lot of opportunities for workers to work in many places to contribute to their communities and grow. But likewise, it's going to contribute not just through technology, but also through how we deal with our environment. So many of the jobs that look at renewable energies, there's going to be a curation of renewable energy occupations. But again, even agriculture, if you think of it this way, there are more than 1 billion people engaged in economic activity associated with agriculture. And a lot of those are subsistence level farming. So their use of technology to demand a better price for their product or to understand how to make higher yields, it's going to affect everybody, but at different rates and at different outcomes.
Sorry, you
Yes,
want to...
and that's the meaning of our initiative, because for some those transformative changes are creating opportunity, and for some it's generating fears and probably a kind of insecurity. So of course, in this situation, the question for ILO is not to judge who is right or who is wrong, but what I want to tell to our friends is that we are proposing this discussion to better understand what is going on.
Great. Yeah, and talking about our friends on the other side of the camera, remember we're live on Facebook, so please do send in your question. It's lunchtime here at the Palais de Nación, so quite a lot of people coming and going. Mm-hmm. But we're here live with Jeff and Nicolas. Jeff, if you were a young person, I mean, we're all still young in a way, yeah?
I thought I was, but that's okay.
Yes, we certainly are. But if you're a young person coming into the world of work, into the job market, what would be your recommendation in terms of where do you see the opportunities in the world of work?
Well, it's a very good question. I myself have two daughters, one in university, one ready to go in, and this is often a question we've had. What should I study? What should I do? And I think it's every parent says it's not what you study, but how you study. Learn to ask the right questions. In my generation, we went to university knowing very clearly what we were going to end up doing. Now, I thought I was going to be an engineer like my father. In our generation, many of us followed our parents in their occupations. But I became an economist. Well, he wasn't overly disappointed, but he was quite happy. But we're changing. So the occupations we see now in 3 to 5 years are going to transform, especially when we talk about information, telecommunications. Those jobs will continually transform. Robert Reich wrote over a decade ago, my old boss, about knowledge workers and how workers would be clustered in knowledge workers and task-oriented. And the issue is, both have their value, but they need to make sure that we understand, we educate and train people. So going to college for knowledge workers and understanding how to think is very important. But let's not forget, it's a lot of those skilled craftsmen that we need. The people who built this building, the carpenters, the electricians, the plumbers, all of those are skilled people. And we need to make sure that we're working to understand how those industries will change as well.
Now, Nicolas, partnerships are something very important for the ILO. And talking about the Future of Work initiative, who is the ILO partnering with to move this forward?
Now, first of all, I want to remind to our friends that ILO is a kind of unique organization because we have a tripartite structure. Tripartite meaning that we have workers, employers and governments. So, of course, the core of this initiative is a discussion among our constituents, workers, employers and government about the future of work. But of course, we wish to open broadly this initiative, and this is open to universities, think tanks, prominent scholars, and of course young people. They could participate, they are invited to participate actively, and we can discuss that of course if you want, but of course this initiative is very much about youth and for them. So I invite them to participate broadly to our discussions across the globe, everywhere.
And if we can remind them of the email through which they can get in touch with you.
The email. So first of all, we have dedicated pages on our website about Future of Work, and the email is futureofwork@ilo.org.
Exactly, futureofwork@ilo.org.
We try to answer to you, so please send your emails, and we will discuss with you.
Absolutely, and do send your questions via Facebook. We're live from the Palais de Nación. It's 1:10 almost here in Geneva. Not a sunny day, but nice enough. Jeff, another one of the big issues that the ILO is dealing with is the 2030 agenda, the SDGs. What linkages, or how do you see the future of work vis-a-vis the 2030 agenda? What are the main themes that we should have in mind?
Well, I think we need to keep in mind that the SDGs are not really new. Back in 2000, we started with the MDGs. And when the 8 goals were put together, there was an afterthought about employment wasn't included. So it's been very nice now to see that the employment issue is taken up, because if we look for sustainable economic growth, sustainable environments, and basically maintaining humanity, we can't not address the issues of the world of work. So what we're looking at now in Goal 8 on decent work and productivity is to ensure that the work that we put forward will lift people out of poverty, keep them out of poverty, but do it in a way that's understanding of the environment as well, because we need to make sure we work this balance. So likewise, if you look around the other goals, they're mutually beneficial and supportive. Whether we're talking about gender, we're talking about governance, poverty, and environment. the world of work and what we're dealing with in terms of employment for the future needs to basically be considered and taken how these relate to one another.
Nicolas, I know that the ILO is working with many countries on these issues, and that many countries have undertaken these national consultations. I don't know if you can tell us a little bit about the number of countries that have joined those consultations, and also what's the main feedback, what are the main themes that they're discussing?
Maybe 2 words to explain the architecture of the initiative. We have built this initiative in 3 stages. The first stage, indeed, Martin, is that we have asked to all our member states across the globe to launch a national dialogues about how they see their future of work. So this is rather unusual, but of course this is a key stage for our initiative because we want to root this initiative in the reality of each country, each region, and this ownership of our national constituents is very important. We are not just adding a new report done by our experts into the 4 walls of ILO in Geneva. We are really coming back to our constituents to ask them an active participation to our initiative. And we have good news because in June we have already 130 answers from all countries across the globe, from Philippines to Russia, from Russia to Chile, from Chile to the US, to Sweden, in Africa. You have a lot of national dialogues launched. This is a kind of discussion, and of course young people, especially young people, they are invited to participate. This is tripartite, but again, this is open to civil society, to NGOs, to universities.
And what are some of the main themes that they're discussing? Because I'm sure, one thing is a developed country, very different from a developing country, the issues that they're discussing. What are the things that you're hearing?
This is a very good question because I want to insist on the fact that it's now truly geographically balanced and universal initiative, because this is not just an initiative about the future of work in developed countries or in the Western countries. This is coming from everywhere. So of course the countries are free to choose their issues, their priorities, and we have a lot of diverse, let's say, answers, and this is very well. This is the word as it is, so some countries, they have chosen, like as Jeff mentioned, that the impact of technological revolution on the change on the future of work. Some they have chosen, the issue of social dialogue. Some the value of work. So it's very different. We just gave to our member states 4 indicative, let's say, conversations, so-called centenary conversations. Decent work for all, work and society, the governance of work and production, and the last one I'm forgetting.
but you can check out our webpage, and you'll find the information there. It's www.ilo.org/future of work.
What I want to say is that the 4 conversations are just indicative conversations. So each country is very free to choose its priorities, and it is very rich. We are receiving the first answers, and we hope that we will have an active participation from everybody. The second stage of the initiative will be the establishment of a high-level commission in Geneva about this future of work. This commission will work on the results of the national dialogues and contributions. And the third stage, of course, will be the 2019 year, the year of centenary itself, in which we hope to have reports and recommendations from the Commission and a possible centenary big declaration as a sort of kind of Philadelphia Declaration for the future.
Great. That'll be in 3 years' time, 2019, here hopefully at the Palais des Nations. Now, just a reminder that we're live on Facebook. We're taking in your questions. I'm not seeing any questions coming in through here, but please do send them in. My team will make sure that I receive them. Now, Jeff, of course, when we talk about the future of work and employment, it's not only about the quantity of employment, but especially about the quality of employment, right? And if we drill into the new technologies, what could be the impact of new technologies, especially on the quality of work?
Well, it's interesting you raise this because in the Financial Times today was an article that came out from a report from OECD advising countries not to so much worry about the wage gap and the earnings gap, but focus more on job creation. To me, as an economist with more than 30 years, I would say just the opposite. We know for a fact that if we have a strong middle class and we know if we have a strong working class, that they earn money and they spend money and they create demand. And again, if we start moving through the future of work and we're creating new occupations, because those will be in short supply early on, you're going to create demand for innovative work. And we've seen this even in the 80s and 90s through software developers, web developers, and moving forward. Now we're seeing it with wind turbine, alternative energy sources, new types of crowdsourcing work. We're creating new opportunities. So it's not just about creating jobs. And again, before taking over as the Deputy Director for Research, I was a country director in the Philippines. And you see very clearly when you have people trapped in poverty, they do whatever they can do to survive and they use that money very frugally. But if you can raise their income to a middle level income, they're going to spend that money on other goods and services their family needs. And we know any young person that's taken Economics 101 will tell you, you have a multiplier effect. And that's how we create a sustainable economy. So it's, again, not about just creating any job. It's about creating jobs that are decent and productive. And what we mean by decent, do these people have social protection, a fair wage, fair operating environment? Do they have access to social dialogue? So with these environments, we can actually create a sustainable society. The point we have to bear in mind, the economy, and me being an economist saying this might be a little odd, an economy is like an engine of a car. It's there to power the car. It's there to power society. Society are not there to serve that engine. So we have to keep this in mind. It's a balancing act.
Great. Let me stay with you for the next one as well, Jeff, because we just got a question from Agnes, who's in Brussels. Thank you, Agnes, for sending your question. She says, how can we make sure that digitalization and advances in technology are not only for the most skilled, but everyone can benefit from productivity gains?
Well, Agnes, that's a great question. I mean, it's absolutely true. We need to make sure that technology is accessible to everyone and that technology can be used to better society. And this is where governments and our social partners, trade unions and employers come together to make sure that we set a balanced playing field, that we can lift everyone up. So these advances in technology are not serving the few, but again, serving society. So what you can do, Agnes, is basically make sure that your voice is heard in terms of the social process, in terms of government, working with your trade unions and your employers to make these messages clearly understood. We want to make sure that these new tools are available to everyone.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah,
Maybe
Nicolas.
2 words, Martin, just to add to what Jeff said, that our initiative about future of work is not only focused on the robots or digitalizations or artificial intelligence. This is very much about men and women behind the machines. So in ILO, we are not forgetting that behind the screens, behind algorithm, behind the robots, we have men and women working, and we are not forgetting that. That's what we are proposing, an initiative to shape the future we want for men and women. That's very important. I want to add that for Agnes.
Absolutely. And Nicolas, just to stay on that thought, when we talk about the Future of Work initiative, how will we know that we get to a point where we say, yeah, well, the future of work, we've been successful at it? When can we say, or how will we measure whether the future of work has been a success or not? Is there a way of doing that?
This year, for me, the success is if all the countries, the social partners, the governments is taking a very active part in this discussion. The mere fact that we are launching a global discussion across the globe about the future of work is per se already something very interesting. Of course, the debate about future of work is already broadly open everywhere. If you Google future of work, you have a lot of pages on that, but this is very fragmented, not very well organized, and the ambition of ILO is to launch a sort of more, let's say, organized and a common discussion on that, and this is per se a result. Secondly, we hope to propose to our constituents, to the social partners, to the government, a sort of platform to discuss the issue at stake when we are speaking about the future of work, to better understand where we are going. And then we hope that the Commission, on the basis of national dialogues, will probably publish some recommendations, because we are not doing that just for academic purpose. We are doing that to better understand where we are going about the future of work and to propose policy alternatives. So that's very important. That's why we are saying that we are working to shape the future of work we want again, and this is very important.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We're live on Facebook here at the Palais de Nación. We're talking about the future of work, trends, threats, and opportunities. Please keep sending your questions. You can put them on the comment box on the ILO Facebook page. Jeff, here's a question from Asif. He says, do you think that automation should be regulated and that companies should be prevented from using certain technologies that could destroy jobs? And is that possible?
Yeah. Well, Asif, this has been going on since the ILO was created in 1919. We only need to look back to the UK when we had the Weavers. There was always a fear about technology and innovation destroying jobs. But I can say from someone who's looked at this issue for more than 25 years, when we destroy jobs, we actually create other jobs. And oftentimes the jobs we are destroying are becoming very low productivity. And the jobs that are being created are higher productivity. So this is always a transformative process. So no, I don't think we should regulate the use of technology as long as it's good for the environment and humanity. But what we have to make sure of is that we work with the people to ensure these technologies or people are trained up to fill these needs. And again, this is where social dialogue and working with our governments and you raising your voice and saying, look, what skills you think are needed is very important. We need to make sure that we don't stifle economic growth. We don't stifle our growth as human beings, but we basically understand the risk. And again, as we move forward, we will destroy jobs. And we've seen this. We're in the fourth industrial revolution now. We've destroyed jobs over time, but it's led to better jobs down the road. How we manage those destructions is up to us as civil society, working with governments, workers, and employers to make sure we transition those in the most effective manner.
Great. Jeff just mentioned something very important, working together, government, employers, and workers. Nicolas, if you can tell us how these three important members of the ILO, government, workers, and employers, can work together to ensure that we have a future with decent work for all.
This is precisely the added value of ILO, because within the international governance, we have this unique tripartite structure. So we know how to have the social dialogue at three: workers, employers, and governments. And the national dialogues we are launching about future of work are designed to be at three, to deal with the changing world of work. To shape in a common with a common approach this future. So that's very important, and you put your finger on very important the core of the added value of ILO, which is this tripartite dimension.
Absolutely. We're live here at the Palais de Nación. It's 24 minutes past 1 o'clock here in Geneva. We're at the 105th International Labour Conference. Here's a very interesting comment that seems to be generating some debate on Facebook. Quite interesting. This is from Brita. And Jeff, I'm going to throw this one to you. She says, would you say that young people these days should think more about self-employment than trying to find a steady job on a salary?
Well, Brita, it's a very interesting question. I think the answer would depend. We economists like to say depend because we say on the one hand this, on the other that. The issue is self-employment. It's often viewed as an employment of last resort in many developing economies. And it's often viewed as being those who don't have education experience. But now we're seeing a transformation of the economy where a lot of people are becoming contractors or consultants that have expertise in certain fields. So if you have that skill set, and if your skills are in demand, it is something you can explore. But I often caution as well is have that opportunity to work with businesses and work in communities, because remember, your first few jobs, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn business practices, you're going to learn social skills, working as teams, etc. So again, I don't think it's one or the other. I think these are opportunities as we move forward. However, with that said, if we look at the future of work 20, 30 years down the road, we see the evolution changing. We see some cases where we're seeing the lines between the employer and the employee be distorted. One only needs to look at like Airbnb, Uber, and other types where who's the employer, who's the worker. So again, is that a consultant? There are opportunities there, but yet again, I think we're going to see this relationship change over the next 20, 30 years.
Great. Nicolas, in your opinion as the special advisor on the future of work, what are some of the threats to a future with decent work for all that you're seeing right now, especially in the talks that you're having with ministries, employers, and workers around the world?
The first challenge, of course, is to create the jobs we need. Don't forget that just to absorb the demographic growth, we have to create 40 million of jobs per year. And if we are serious for SDGs, we need to create 600 million of jobs for 2030. So that's the first challenge. Now, of course, you have a lot of disruptions introduced by the evolution of technology, and Jeff has explained that. So again, I mean, for some this is an opportunity. For others, this is fears. It means it's generating, a sort of uncertainty for the future. And precisely, our initiative is to open a discussion to better navigate in this uncertainty and to create conditions for decent work for all. So we are trying to enable the conditions of decent work for all. So when I'm discussing with people, traveling across the globe, of course the discussions are very different. You can imagine how it could be different, the discussion of future of work in Germany or in Egypt or in Chile, so this is very different. But the fact is that you have always the same question: are we in a kind of a Schumpeterian process, destruction and creation of jobs, or not? And are we creating enough jobs for all? That's the question I have each time, and Jeff explained that in his previous intervention, but this is the main issue at stake.
Absolutely, and let's now jump from Schumpeter to another economist, and let me read you a quote, Jeff. It says, the current social and political transformation should ensure that people do less work that is not fulfilling, but still have enough income to lead a decent life. What famous economist said this? Can you guess?
Yeah, it's Keynes, but let's keep in mind that the period that he lived in. He lived at the turn of the century from the 1800s to the 1900s, and you bear in mind, this is about the point where the ILO was created in 1919. And what they were looking at was coming up with a standard work week and saying that people should not just work to toil, but basically have to enjoy as well and be productive. And it shouldn't be working very long hours, excessive hours. And like the ILO, we've addressed the issues of youth, et cetera, over the years. So again, his message still rings true today. Again, we want work to be fulfilling. Okay, we want work to be fulfilling for the individual and society's needs. So coming together is very important. So I think the quote still holds relevant today.
Yeah, but the question is, how do we do that? How do you pull something like that off to ensure that people, spend less time doing things that they don't like, but at the same time have the income to enjoy a decent life? How do you pull that off?
I would say over the last 100 years, we've made movements in that direction. You look at how many hours people used to work. But let's keep this in mind. That's not equal around the globe. Many developing worlds, people work very long hours for very little remuneration. So they're still we still have this challenge. So how do we resolve this? And again, it's that issue of the social dialogue is at the forefront. We need to make sure workers, employers, and governments are discussing these issues, making sure that we're creating jobs that basically service society. And one of the questions that comes up around this often is about minimum wage. Minimum wage is not an economic construct. It's a societal construct that says we want to make sure, we believe as a society, that no one should make less than this in order for them to basically not just survive, but to be able to operate safely and nice. So again, it's these issues that we're trying to balance. And this is where the ILO, it's been around since 1919, almost as twice as old as the UN. Why we're relevant? Because we are still making some of the changes to address those struggles. So again, the first step is social dialogue, and we're going to see that in the future.
Absolutely. Social dialogue, one of the cornerstones of the ILO. It's 30 minutes past the hour here in Geneva, 1:30. We're still live on Facebook, taking in your questions. Nicolas, one of the questions that's coming in, this one is from Sophie. She says, does the future of work include more flexible working circumstances, how do we ensure that flexibility benefits not only workers, but also, not only employers, but also workers as well?
Of course, this is a part of the debate. I mean, this is a major issue, and we will have to deal with that, and we'll discuss that, of course.
Great. Another very important issue for the ILO, which is a cross-cutting issue, is gender equality. Jeff, how can we ensure a future where there's more and not less gender equality?
Well, again, I think you look throughout the world, there's been significant progress made on this. The research department with other research in the House have written on this recently. We just released a report on gender just a couple months ago. We are making movements, but part of it is also ensuring, if we look through the SDG lens, that we ensure that both young men and young women have access to education. So it's not just about educating one group or the other. It's making sure they have equal opportunities within the labor market. And so again, what we've seen progress, but by any stretch we haven't seen enough. And this is an issue that's very close to my heart as well, because again, I have 2 teenage daughters, and I want to make sure that they have that level of economic independence and that ability to engage in a fruitful, productive life. So there are progresses being made, but again, it's an issue that we need to keep at the forefront. And through the ILO's various mechanisms, this issue is being addressed. And again, if you look at the SDGs and the debate around the future of work, it's at the forefront.
And of course, I mean, gender and green economy are the two new components. We can imagine that it was not so present in the Philadelphia Declaration just after the Second World War. So this is very important for our debate about the future of work, gender and green economy.
Absolutely.
And climate change.
And climate change, yes. 2 key issues for the ILO that the ILO is concerned with. Let me take another question that's coming in. This one is from Neringa, and I believe Neringa is from Lithuania, yes, here in Europe as well. He says, and I want to put this one to you, Jeff, how can we ensure that working with new technologies won't break the line between private life and work? Not really an employment-related question, but something very important.
It is. It's very much a work-related question. And what I think Ning is referring to is what we call the work-family life balance. And I will applaud Nicholas's home country recently that made it illegal for certain companies to actually reach out to workers outside of hours. And this is a problem. The blurring of the line, especially for knowledge workers, is what is work and what is not work. So again, I think this is where society comes together and says, look, we want to be productive members when it comes to our work, but workers need their downtime as well to refresh and to recharge. And it's often that debate, working long hours maybe sound great, but if an employee has to work long hours, they become less productive. So we want to ensure that when workers are engaged in their economic activity at work, they're engaged and they're productive. But they need the ability to recharge. And again, social dialogue plays a very important role in this. So when workers and employers get together and say, look, we know this is excessive, and they come to those agreements. It's not always up to the government to have to regulate. Sometimes through social dialogue, these issues can be addressed.
Great.
Martin, maybe 2 words from Neringa from Lithuania. Neringa, I just want to tell you that your national dialogues in Lithuania will take place in September. So you can participate, or this is...
And Nicholas is inviting you.
Yes. I'm invited in Lithuania, very, very happy, and your country will actively participate and launch its debate in September.
Great, and we're actually getting to the close of this session, so I just want to finish off with 2 questions, one for you, Nicolas, one for you, Jeff. For you, Nicolas, if you can remind us of what the next steps are in this very important Future of Work initiative for the ILO.
So again, this year is very important year, is the year of national dialogues and contributions. So we hope to receive a lot of contributions from all the countries. This is very important for us. This is a key for the success of this initiative. We have 3 years, but until the centenary itself. So we are working very much with all our constituents to launch those dialogues. And again, I mean, this is a success because until now we have 130 answers. So a very active participation and a strong interest, a strong political momentum in support of this initiative launched by our DG Guy Rader by December last year. The next step will be in March the establishment of this high-level commission, which will work on the basis, very much on the basis of national dialogues. and of course on the basis of our work in ILO, because we will bring our own input, and the research department led by Jeff will be very active in that. And then we'll have in the course of 2018, the report of the Commission with recommendations. I cannot, of course, develop that because we don't know. I mean, the result of the work of this high-level Commission. But it will propose a report and recommendations to our constituents, and we think about a possible political declaration in 2019 about the future of work. I told you, a sort of kind of new Philadelphia Declaration about the future of work. That's the calendar, so that's very ambitious, but we think it's very useful because jobs, employment is one probably of the major issue for our future, as climate change or
gender equality.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's very important for everybody everywhere in the world.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and good luck with the initiative. Jeff, let's end pretty much where we began. Your message to our young colleagues on the other side of the camera who are watching this, who are entering the labor market, 2-3 key pieces of advice that you would give them.
Well, one, take the time to learn, study. We don't know what the future is going to be like in terms of work. Follow your dreams and your passions in the sense that where your interests lie, but make sure you can earn a living and support yourself and your family. And third, be ready for change, because to be honest, I can look at my own career for the last 30 years, it always changes. So again, be ready to be adaptable to these changes and learn new technologies. I'm 52 years old now. I still act as though I'm 24, but my advice is you always have to be willing to learn something new, because the job you have now will change and it will continue to adapt, and you'll have to adapt. So be open and ready to accept change.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Nicolas. Change will continue to happen. That's something that we can definitely bet on. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock again, Geneva time, here from the Palais des Nations at the 105th International Labour Conference. And I believe tomorrow at 1 we'll be talking about women at work. So please do tune in and send in your question. Thank you. Goodbye.